Hey everyone, it's Riley, and today I'm going to be sharing with you 10 different weekly spreads that you can use for your bullet journal. So if you enjoy bullet journaling content, I do hope that you'll consider subscribing to my channel. I post different plan with me videos, theme idea videos, custom bullet journal flip throughs, all that kind of stuff, so you'll get tons of inspiration every month, and I'd love to have you join me here. So as I said, we're going to be going through 10 different weekly layouts, and some of these I've never really used much for myself. Some I've done in custom bullet journals for other people, some I've seen online, some I just kind of came up with, and I feel like they would work really well for some people. And there's one specific weekly layout that works really, really well for me. I have tried a bunch of different weekly layouts in the past, and I really just landed on this one that works for my life. And I'm hoping that there's one weekly layout in this video that is going to do the same thing for you, that will just serve you and your lifestyle perfectly. So you may have seen some of these weekly layouts before. Some of them will probably be brand new to you, but I hope that you'll go ahead and try some of them out. Let me know down in the comments which ones you like the best, which ones you're most excited to try out. And I will say, my bullet journal layout, the weekly spread that I use every single week, is going to be the last one in this video. So maybe that will be the one that works for you just as well as it works for me. So here's one of the journals that I recently designed and launched. These are available in my shop in a few different colors. I'm going to link those below. And this is a custom journal that I'm working on right now. So the first 5 weekly spreads I'm doing in this journal, and I just decided to do them in the month of August here, where I've got this kind of road trip theme going on with a lot of sort of burgundy, yellow, and green. And I didn't really plan this out before the video, but I ended up sticking with that theme and those colors throughout like the entire video. So you're going to be seeing a lot of little doodles that have to do with this little road trip theme. And all of the weekly spreads that I did in this video took me, I think one of them took me like 12 minutes to set up, but this whole video with 10 weekly spreads was like 1 hour and 10 minutes long. So that's an average of 7 minutes per weekly spread. So I feel like that's pretty good. They come together pretty quick. So the first one that I'm doing here is one that I've been using a lot recently while I've been on bed rest. So as I mentioned in the intro, I have one weekly spread that is like my absolute go-to weekly spread, and I'm going to be going back to that soon. I'm going to be done with my bed rest very shortly. I'm so excited. Actually, I probably will be, or maybe will be by the time this video is out. I'm not totally sure when this is going up, but anyway, so this weekly spread has been the best for me while I've been on bed rest, because I seriously feel like I've never found a weekly spread that uses the space this effectively. And I feel like you'll see what I mean as we get going. So this customer who ordered this journal, she chose the themes and stuff, and I just asked her if she was okay with me filming this video featuring her journal, or if she had specific weekly spreads, and she said no, she was totally fine with this, with me kind of playing around with different weekly spreads. So for each week in August, I've got a different weekly spread to show you, and then I'll be doing the other weekly spreads in a different journal. So as you can see, there's space for all 7 days of the week. So the 5 days of the week I put up at the top, and you can make this top part as tall or as short as you want to. For me, in my standard A5 size journal, each day is 8 dot grid spaces wide. That's the key. 8 dot grid spaces wide, but the height really is up to you. If you don't need that much space for Saturday, Sunday, and habits, or whatever you want to put in that box, you can definitely make the 5 days of the week taller, or if you don't need those that tall, you could split it evenly, whatever works for you. And with all these weekly spreads, of course, you can customize them to fit your needs. So this customer requested that every single weekly spread, no matter what I chose to do with it, she requested that it would have space for a task list and a habit tracker. So that's what I've got here. You can see the habits down in that big sort of square in the bottom left, and then the tasks along the left side of the page. And I just feel like this weekly spread is very, very satisfying to use. So moving on to the next one here. This is one that if you've watched videos here on my channel for a while, you've probably seen me do this one before, because I use it in a lot of custom bullet journals. It's a really popular one, and basically you just put all the days of the week over on one page, which is what I'm doing right now. And then you've got the whole other page to use for whatever you want. So tasks, habits in this person's case, but of course you can do more than that. And for the spacing with this one, you'll see that I use a ruler to do my spacing. I don't love using a ruler to draw straight lines, but I do love having a ruler with centimeters to just measure things out, so I'm never having to count all my dot grid spaces. I'm from Canada, so we use centimeters anyways, so it's really just natural for me. But anyways, so this page has like 13 centimeters worth of dots. It's 13 centimeters wide. The page is wider, but the dots are that wide, you know? So at 6.5 centimeters, that's where I put that black center line on the left. And then as far as the height of each of those daily boxes go, the dots on the page are 19 centimeters tall. So I just cut off one dot at the top and at the bottom so that it's 18. 18 centimeters divides really nicely into 3s or 2s or 6s, whatever you need. But anyways, so each of those weekly sort of day boxes is 6 centimeters tall for a total of 18 centimeters. So if you're trying to figure out how many dots that is, it's just twice as many because each dot grid space is like half a centimeter. So that would be 36 dots tall instead of 18 centimeters tall. Anyways, that's just how I do my spacing. I don't really love counting dot grid spaces that much, and I just have all these ones kind of in my head already that I use all the time. This one, again, I split the page down the middle at that 6.5 centimeter mark. And then for the height, like I said, since it's about 18 centimeters tall, if you don't include one dot on the top and one on the bottom, that puts 9 centimeters right in the middle. So that's a nice easy spot to split it horizontally. Anyways, this here is another weekly spread that I've used quite a bit in custom bullet journals. And basically you just want to divide the page or both pages into 4 corners. And you can definitely, you know, like slice through that left column that I left open if you want to separate Saturday and Sunday. But I like to do it this way so that I have more space to put a habit tracker, a task list, or whatever the person asks for. Moving on here, this is one that I don't ever do in custom bullet journals, and I feel like I've seen it before, but I really can't place it, like where I saw this. So anyways, I'm taking kind of one of the main doodles from this theme, which is that road sign, and putting that right in the center. You're going to want something to kind of mark off the center. A big round doodle, the monthly title, something like that. And then all of my days of the week are going to kind of go off like spokes around this center point. So again, I'm pulling out my ruler for the spacing. And again, sticking with that 18 centimeters tall, I just put a light gray dot at the 0 mark, 4.5 centimeters, 9 centimeters, 13.5, and then 18 to split the page into quarters that way. And that's what I'm using to map out where I want these dots. And then at the bottom as well, the task list and the habit tracker still fit. Of course, if you don't want a task list or a habit tracker, again, you'll just want to alter your spacing so that you're leaving space for just 7 days of the week, or 6 if you want to combine the weekend, instead of having this sort of extra space at the bottom. Moving on here, this is another one that I don't usually use, or actually really ever use in custom bullet journals. But what I decided to do for one of them at least was to give you kind of like a timetable option. I know some people like to have the times written out so that they can map out, you know, when their different classes start, when their appointments are, stuff like that. So I just used a really small fine liner, and on that left side, I wrote out the different times throughout the day, and then each of these daily boxes is going to be nice and tall with enough space to fit all the times of the day, but then also a little section at the top to use for like key tasks, or maybe the meal that you want to prep for that night. Whatever it is that's helpful to you, I like to leave a little bit of extra space so that it's not just like the hours of the day mapped out. And again, these columns are 8 dot grid spaces wide, but you can make them as tall as you need depending on how many hours you want to fit in there and how much extra stuff you want space for at the top. And I will say this weekly spread definitely would also work even if you don't want the times outlined along the side. Just leave that part out. You can still have a nice tall daily box like this, and you can, I still like to sort of separate a section at the top, you know, like you can see 3 dot grid spaces tall. I just left a little separated space, and you can use this for whatever you want, but I just find it so visually helpful to separate, for example, like events versus tasks. Or I feel like I use this example all the time, but that's because this is what I do. Like the meal that I'm planning to make that day, I like to separate that from all my other tasks, or like one top priority, separate that from my tasks. I just find it's really helpful visually to have a way to set some of those things apart. So that's all that I'm doing in that custom bullet journal. Now I just moved into an old journal of my own to do the last 5 weekly spreads. And the reason I did that is because some of these are going to be single page weekly spreads. Some are going to use more than one, or like more than a 2-page spread, which you'll see in just a moment. So that's why I didn't do them in her bullet journal. I just did normal 2-page weekly spreads in hers. So for this one here, you're basically just setting up 9 boxes. Again, the spacing, so helpful if you have a ruler with centimeters. The boxes are 8 dot grid spaces wide. And then because I'm using 36 dots tall, again, I just divided that into 3 sections. So I've got 12 dot grid spaces tall for each square. Then you can see 7 of the boxes are dedicated to the days of the week. You might not be able to read that, it's pretty tiny, but the tiny little writing just says the day of the week. And then I'm using this top box to write in the title of the month, which is August. The bottom I'll use for a tasks list, but again, if you have different things that you would rather track, you can definitely do that here as well. Over on the next page, I'm going to do another single page weekly spread. Now, I personally have never, probably will never use single page weekly spreads because I use my bullet journal for so much. But for some people, this is really all the space that they need. So over to one side here, I'm having a spot for each day, and this is really just for the events. Obviously, you can't fit much into each of those boxes, so you're not going to write out all of your tasks for that day, but at least you've got a spot to kind of assign the key events. And the rest of the page, obviously I'm going to have a title, but the biggest thing on this page that I like to pair with a little daily events sort of section like this is a rolling task list. So you may have heard of the rolling task list before. It's literally just a task list, but beside it I have the letters M, T, W, you know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all the way through to Sunday. And then when you have a task that you want to complete on a certain day, you draw a hollow circle under that date. If you do complete it, you fill it in. If not, you cross it off and move the circle to a different date when you want to fill it in. So you're kind of still mapping out like what tasks you want to do each day, but just in a different way. So I feel like that kind of task list pairs really well when you only have a small space for each day, like you did on that single page weekly spread. Now here I am doing another double page weekly spread, and this one again is one that I've never done in a custom journal. I've never used it myself, but I do think they're cute. I feel like I've seen this a couple of times, and it's kind of like a timeline that you just set up to go throughout the week. So Monday until the weekend, and this is really loose, not very structured. I just draw a line going either up or down, just kind of alternating. So for example, everything that I want to write on Monday is going to go below the heading for Monday. Everything I want to write about Tuesday is going to go above the heading for Tuesday, Wednesday below, Thursday above, alternating, you know? And then you do end up having some extra space that you can use for things like a heading, like a task list, a habit tracker, or some doodles. So getting into the final 2 weekly spreads here, this is a big one, and this is what I meant by it uses more than just 2 pages. So again, I use my ruler to mark out the middle of each page, which is 6.5 centimeters or 13 dots, right? Yes, 13 dots. So that's what I did. I marked out the middle of each page, and now each day is going to get a really huge, tall column. And this is, I've used this spread once before. I don't love the vertical layout like this. It was a little bit too much for me, but I do love the concept. You just have so much space. And so even within each day, you can change this up a lot. If you want like a daily habit tracker, a daily mood tracker, a daily spot to like write down the weather, how much water you're drinking, this spread has so much space for stuff like that. Again, I just kind of sectioned off a little chunk at the top. Visually, that's so helpful for me. If I were to use this spread, I would probably fill most of it with tasks, like all of those light gray lines would be full of tasks. And then the box at the top would probably have my meal for the day, my top priority, and any events that I had that day to kind of keep those separate from everything else. So you can see that obviously this full week is not going to fit on just the 2 pages here, but don't you worry, I've got a little trick for that. So over to the side here, again, you can include whatever you want. If you want a habit tracker or something like that, this would be a great place to do that. I'm just doing a task list for this one, since it isn't in the custom journal that she ordered. It doesn't need to have a habit tracker. And now flipping over the other page, I'm doing the remaining 4 days of the week. Now again, if you wanted to combine the weekend here and have like leave that far page, the right side open to do more like, I don't know, maybe an event section or a note section or a bigger habit tracker or something, you totally could, but I decided to separate Saturday and Sunday for this one. And I'm just doing the exact same thing here. I divided the page into halves, and then you can set up each day with whatever things that you need. Now this is the fun part of this weekly spread. You can just fold it over. I love this. So if you fold it down the middle here, now whenever you're looking at any day of that week, you still have access to the task list over on that left side, which I really love because I always like to see kind of my week at a glance. But yeah, you just fold it in the middle, good to go. And now finally we get to the weekly spread that I use all the time. This is my favorite. And basically what I do is pretty much like a single page weekly spread with daily entries, like a rolling weekly sort of thing where you just actually do the days of the week as you go throughout the week instead of setting them up in advance. So over on this left side, I do set this page up in advance. I'll normally set it up on like Friday of the week before so that I can kind of map out my week. So what I've got on this page is a little section for each day, and I only use this for events and meals. That's it. I don't put in any of the tasks that I want to do that day or anything like that because it's very, very tight for space. Then I do have a big like weekly task list. Sometimes I'll just do a weekly task list. Sometimes I'll do a habit tracker or like a little quote, something like that. And then over on the other pages, that's where I do my sort of daily boxes. And these I do not set up in advance. I just do them the night before. So if it were Sunday night, I would write Monday at the top there. I do a little star that has my top priority for the day. I do a little S for supper and I write what meal I'm planning to make that day. And then I have 3 columns for morning, afternoon, and evening. And I just fill those up like with as many tasks as I need to write down. Sometimes a single day will only take up like the top quarter of a page. Sometimes it will take up over half. It really just depends, but that gives me the freedom to take as much space as I want. And then Monday evening, I'll prepare the same thing for Tuesday. Thank you all so much for joining me for 10 different weekly spreads today. Let me know in the comments which one was your favorite, and I'll see you in the next video.